Welcome back to the Brew Bowl, and this is the round 3 summary. It's been a fun round this time around. We had 2 player versus player games, the only time in the whole comp we'll have that in a single round, which of course meant 2 NPC versus NPC team games, so have a chance to run through those in just a moment. This was also the star player round, so every single team got a star player, selected by myself based upon what I felt each team could sort of use or work with, or what was appropriate for the actual team to use. And you would have seen in the player versus player matches, they had a chance to sort of run around with those and see what they could do. So we had APE had the Hackfem Scuttle Spike, Scuttle Spike. Sorry, I keep saying Scuttle Spike. Lawson had the Mighty Zug. We had Griff Ironjaw with Big Spoon, and Foe Hammer had Ripper Bolgrot, the troll, as well. So a lot of fun with those players. But let's go over to see how the NPC teams did in this round as well. So we had the Talabecland Griffons, the Imperial Notability team, playing the Sloe Thicket Raiders. So in this case, the Griffons had the support of what did they have? They had Torsten Stoutmead, which is the Viking who throws beer kegs, and the Halflings had Carla Von Kill to support their team. Now, Torsten actually proved pretty good in terms of, first off, keeping Carla out of the match just by hitting her in the face with kegs from time to time. And then also managed to knock down one of the treatment at one point and keep him out of the match too. Which really gave, although Torsten wasn't really doing much in terms of blocking or carrying the ball, they did pretty well right up until he smacked himself in the face with his own beer keg and knocked himself out for the rest of the game. But pretty early on, we had one of our halfling catchers, Paul Cottyhill, just do a 2-dice block with some supports against one of the nobility linemen, Aldo Mueller, and got a fatality. So first halfling killing a human there. We got finally another throw in round 3. So our nobility thrower, Oswald Klippel, managed to get off a pass to Wolfgang Reichart, one of the blitzers, who took it in then for a touchdown same turn. The halflings responded very quickly thanks to a great throw teammate player from one of the treemen, and managed to score immediately the turn after. And then we had pretty much multiple unanswered touchdowns from the same blitzer, broken only by an opportunity in turn 7 for Wolfgang Reichart to grab the other halfling catcher and seriously injure him, knocking him out for the next round. So all told, that blitzer scored 4 touchdowns in the game, giving the Griffons a 4-1 victory over the Raiders. So along with his 4 touchdowns and 1 casualty, he quite poetically got drafted to the NEF, therefore taking him out of the Griffons going forward. So a bit of a loss for them after having a player score so many goals or score so many touchdowns in one game. But that is the way that Sevens works from time to time. All right, moving on to the second NPC game, and this was the Loren Forest Drakes, the Wood Elves, versus the Ice Peak Jarls, the Norse team. So in this case, the Drakes had Eldril Sidewinder, the Elven star player, and the Norse team had Ivar Eriksson, one of their sort of harder-hitting Norse players. I have to say that there wasn't a lot of involvement of the star players in this match. First off, with the Jarls, we decided to keep the star player off in the first drive because he really sort of broke up the abilities that the Norse team had consistently, and so we actually used him as the first interchange. So the first time a player was knocked out on the following drive, we took him onto the field. And even then, the Elven player was able to pull off a couple of hypnotic dances in order to keep some players tied up and get rid of their tackle zones. But overall, this was a pretty one-sided game, once again going the way of the Wood Elves. So we had, this is our first game with 2 War Dancers too. So our older War Dancer managed to score a touchdown turn 4, having received the ball. We did also see that following turn that the Yeti seriously injured, so missed next game for the other War Dancer, followed by, subsequently in turn 7, the first War Dancer managed to seriously injure one of the Ulfunar, knocking him out for the next round game as well. You then had another score from the Wood Elves. They probably could have got another score off and gone to 3-0 at the end of the game, but the ball got fumbled a bit. I did manage to get off a completion with the thrower Cadro to the catcher Midi in the final turn, but she just didn't have the run distance to get her. Like, even if she'd gone for it twice, she would have caught up to 2 squares short of the line. So not a big victory for the Wood Elves based upon some of their past performances, but still a 2-0 win for the Wood Elves is pretty good for them and keeps them on the top of the table. So speaking of the table, as I said, the Wood Elves are the only undefeated team with 3 wins and a goal difference or touchdown difference of +6. The Reaverz comfortably in second place once again, so with some great playing by Fohammer to be up 2 wins to 1 draw, so no losses just yet. 7 league points and a difference of +3. The Slavers, the Chaos Dwarves, Arthur's team, jumped from near the bottom of the table right up to 3rd place with a win this week against the Ogres. So 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss puts them on 4 points with a +1 differential. And then we've got 3 teams all languishing on 3 points with a single win and 2 losses. And they are ranked here by their touchdown difference. So the Nobility team were at +0, the Ogres at -3, and the Halflings at -4. And then down the bottom of the table, we have 2 teams without a victory, so 2 draws, 1 loss each, both the Norse team and the Dwarves. And once again here, the Dwarves pull ahead slightly just because of touchdown difference at -1 versus -2 on the Jarls. But it's still very close with 4 games, each team still to play. So there's still 12 points for each team available, which means that technically speaking, any of these teams could still win the minor league as such, or win the playoff season of the game. Although it's obviously much harder for those with only a few points. But the top 4 will go through to the playoffs. So really right now it's about making sure you keep your teams in the top 4. And right now we have 2-player teams in and 2-player teams out. So they've got a bit of work to do to try and keep those players in. So let's look at the teams. The Black Iron Slavers. So bit of a rough game for Arthur here. First off, Nitro, one of his blitzers, his Bull Centaur blitzers, was killed during the game by a Noblar of all things. And on top of that, he also took a miss next game on one of his Hobgoblin linemen. So although he was hoping to buy some Chaos Dwarves, he had to ask himself the question, do I replace my Bull Centaur or do I bring in a couple of Chaos Dwarves? And he's made the decision to finally bring some Chaos Dwarves into his Chaos Dwarf team. So he's welcomed in Tank and Rebel, who will be joining the team for the next game. So he'll be running on basically a full team minus Malibu, which means he's got the full 7, no need for Journeyman. And he did get his fans up too, but he's cash strapped for now. If he wants to buy another a Bull Centaur or even go to a Minotaur, he's got a lot of saving to do. With the star player around giving some bonus cash, you won't see that again for a bit either. Okay, the Dwarf team, the Ironhold Hammerers from Spoon. Once again, a rough game. I really thought that Spoon would tie it up, but of course, Barry Sanderson managed to consecutively fail 4 3+ pickup rolls. Thanks to sure hand still, but didn't help him get the ball. And then immediately left the team at the end of the game. Got drafted away with his wrestle skill. So Brookie Smithson, one of the linemen, picked up Pro, which is quite advantageous. I think that in many ways, the linemen for the Dwarf teams, I think, are actually a little bit stronger than the Blitzers. They just lose out on the speed. But the tackle skill, especially when they go up against teams like the Goblins, the Ogres with the Noblars, and potentially the Wood Elves, is going to really help them shut down those dodge opportunities. So Spoon did take the opportunity to replace Barry Sanderson. He's got to come back to me with a new faux NFL/Dwarf/Viking name to fill his roster. So the player will be in next game, but he needs to still be named by Spoon. But no other change to the team there. Same number of cheerleaders, assistant coaches. Just his treasury is reduced from replacing Barry Sanderson. All right, Lawson's Mountaineers. Wow, Lawson has not had a game without a death, and this is his first game with 2 deaths, losing 2 of his Noblars, one of which was self-inflicted after the Noblar got kicked into a Hobgoblin and broke his neck in the process. But on top of that, probably his key player, his runt punter, which had the leader skill, got drafted away to the NAF, meaning that going into the next game, Lawson only has 6 team members, and therefore will need to pick up a Noblar lineman. He's decided to hold on to his cash. He did roll for expensive mistakes and lucked out not getting one. It will mean he'll have a huge differential going into his next match, I think, versus Nobility. And Lawson's having quite a lot of fun acquiring mercenaries. So I think we'll have a very eclectic team for the next match. And hopefully he can get through the match without any more deaths. Because it's been a pretty rough one. He picked up Fend on one of his linemen. He seemed a bit unhappy at the time, but I think Fend's actually pretty good for a Nobbler, given that they've got that sidestep and dodge. So they're only knocked down on a natural power, and they get to move where they want to. And with Fend, they can't be followed up. So especially if that lineman gets the ball, he's going to be pretty hard to actually stop and to keep on top of. So I think that could be a key player for Lawson going forward. All right, on to Foe Hammer's Orcs, the Death River Reaverz. So having lost Smasher in the last game, they now have a replacement. That player didn't turn up for the last game because of the rules we use for recruiting, but will be available next game. So that's Durlag Dwarf Splitter. I don't know if I said it in the last weekly update, but the names Basher, Crasher, Gasher, etc., Knob, Bob, and Hob are the concept that Lawson's owner never bothered to learn these characters' names and just gave them miscellaneous names to remember them by. But with the newer characters, so Durlag Dwarf Splitter and also the journeyman from the last game, Zigram, that was recruited, we decided, or Foe Hammers decided to start taking their actual orc and goblin names into the team now as well. So, hence why they are no longer Dasher or a second Zob. They have their own names. He also got cheerleaders with his spare money, living with only a 10,000 treasury. But a pretty solid lineup here with 9 players ready to go into the next game. And right now, the highest team rating, I believe. All right, the Halfling team. Playing this week against the Nobility team. Didn't have a great game, despite managing to kill one of the noble players. The Treeman just kept taking root at every every key moment. So it was a tough round for them. They did also lose one of the dedicated fans in the roll into the game. So the catcher picked up diving catch from a random agility skill, but of course the other catcher is going to be missing the next game. So they're going into the next game slightly down. Certainly not much more chance of buying any more soup halfling chefs, although they do have 160k in treasury. They decided to hold on to that maybe to use for inducements later on because they've got a pretty full roster right now, and there's every risk they could lose a treatment in the process. So having that big treasury, even with the risk of expensive mistakes, is probably going to be advantageous for the team in the long run. All right, the Loren Forest Drakes, the Wood Elf team. We spoke about the match earlier against the Jarls. So one of the War Dancers is missing the next game, the new one. We decided to give the thrower an agility skill. He got jump up. Could be all right. It depends. I suppose if he's knocked down in the backfield, has an opportunity to jump up, go a distance to grab the ball, and then throw it. Could be a good opportunity there. The Drakes have also moved into 4 dedicated fans now and use their cash to pick up an apothecary. So they're down to just 10,000 remaining. But their team value, once their missing player comes back, will actually be the highest in the league. But for next round, when they'll be facing the Dwarves, it is down. It is reduced slightly. I think it's still higher than the Dwarves, so the Dwarves will get the inducements. Okay, over to the Icehorn Pete Jarls, the Norse team. Thought it was a great game. Got some scores in there. Picked up Pile Driver on the Ulfenar, or they missed the other Ulfenars knocked out for a game. But the big one was the Valkyrie, who's had multiple touchdowns, got drafted away. So with the cash I had, it made sense to buy a new Valkyrie because that Valkyrie has been such a great player for the team. So I thought it was important that we replace her. So they've got I think a full roster. They got 7 people for next game, so they'll be able to go without any journeyman. But yeah, it could have been a better result at the end with one major player missing the game and then another major player drafted away. And finally, the Nobility team, the Talabecland Griffons. So, as I mentioned, turn 2 of the game, one of their linemen was killed by a halfling catcher. And then their blitzer, who ran in 4 touchdowns and got a casualty in a single game, got drafted away. So we've replaced that blitzer with a new one, Archibald Hecker. And we took a random passing skill for Oswald Klippel and got leader. So a good opportunity to get a re-roll for this team. Their fans did go up as well. Treasury is pretty much mostly drained from replacing the blitzer. But, they could have some luck going forward. I think they do have, they have 7 players going into the next round, so this should be good to go. Looking at the player leaderboards here, as you'll see, we've now got a few passes. So we've got 3 people who made a single pass each. This is not very much a passing league, though, so I don't know how much more you'll see that one going up. But what we have seen, though, is some serious scorers here. So if I hadn't explained it before, red means that the player is dead and will therefore no longer increase their record. And orange or brown means that the player has left the league, and so therefore their current rating there will not go up. So as time goes on, they'll be pushed down probably and leave the bottom of the top 5. But on the highest scorers, we've got a tie for first with 4 each from Midi, and now this round the Blitzer, although the Blitzer is gone. Knob from the Reaverz still has 3 touchdowns, and then you've got 2 apiece for Barry Sanderson, who's left, and Voke, who's dead. So I think it won't be long before those 2 get pushed off the bottom of the leaderboard by other team members still in. Going over to the casualties now, we've got several players all on 2 casualties. So both Treeman, one of the War Dancers, and the Yeti have all pushed themselves into equal first, and then there's a whole bunch of players on only 1. Likewise, most valuable, a whole bunch of players on 1 because nobody is willing to give a second skill to a player for fear that player might leave. Although, I need to update this, I just realized, because Arthur has given Tower, his surviving Bull Centaur, a second skill, so he would actually be on here with 2. So there is a mistake. I'll make sure that's fixed up for next week. And then finally, the most expensive side, I removed players who are no longer taking a wage because they are dead or have left. So that means that Tower has jumped into first place at 160k with 2 skills. The one remaining Ogre from the Ogres team is in second place. The other Ogre from the Nobility team is in third place. And then you've got the Wood Elf and the 2 Treemen together, just ranked here in alphabetical order. So actually a proper leaderboard with a 1 through 5. So let's talk about next round games. So we've got 3 games with players. So 1 game will be 2 players against each other. That'll be first game, Foehammer versus AP Gaming Reel, which will be the Black Orcs taking on the Chaos Dwarves team, sorry. So I don't know. It's I would have given this one pretty cleanly to the Orcs until I saw AP's performance today. Was he enhanced by Hackflem Scuttlespike? Possibly, but he's got some inducement points to play with, so maybe he can make something work with a mercenary potentially. So we'll have to see how he does in his match versus Foehammer. Then Lawson with the Mountaineers, the Ogre team, will be taking on the Nobility team. They're both on 1 win, 2 losses. I like the way Lawson plays. I think that he runs a really fun game. I worry for how he'll do now he's down to only a single Ogre, but I also think that he's going to create some pretty madcap mercenaries to bring into the match as well. So I really don't know what to say about that match until I see it. Then the third match will be Big Spoon's Dwarves taking on the Wood Elf team. It's going to be a tough game for the Dwarves. The Wood Elves are so far undefeated, but if there's a team that can shut them down, it's probably going to be the Dwarves. So it will really come down to whether he can knock a few of them out. It'll be, I think, 7 players versus 7 players, so neither side's got a bench. Dwarves are hard to remove. Wood Elves are easy to remove. It just comes down to can he get his hands on the Wood Elves before they get to many points ahead score-wise. And then finally, the Halflings, the Raiders, will be taking on the Jarls. This could be, well, this is the match we won't be showing because it's NPC versus NPC, but I would expect the North team to brutalize the Halfling team, to be honest. I think that between the one reigning Ulfwenar and the Dauntless Valkyrie, they can probably manage the Treemen, especially if the Treemen have a game like they did this round with the constantly getting rooted. I think that I really think the Jarls will have that one, but we'll see. That's the one I'll resolve with my son. So that's it. That's the end of this round. I hope you enjoyed round 3. Next round will be the middle round, so to speak. So once we're done with that, we're over halfway through the league, and there's some more exciting action coming your way soon. So please do continue to join us. Do continue to enjoy the matches. Don't forget, if you want to chat to myself or any of the players, you can feel free to join AP Gaming Reel's Discord server. You can find that through AP Gaming Reel's YouTube channel. All the players are on there. Arthur's even been nice enough to create a chat channel for this game on that server too. Otherwise, leave comments down below. Myself and the other players love reading them. But we look forward to seeing you next round.